What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the name Robin Hood? Well, for everyone who has grown up with his stories of bravado and robbing the corrupt and rich to help the poor, I think it is safe to say that Robin Hood is viewed as a great hero. But what if there was a story to change your entire perspective? That is precisely what the death of Robin Hood does, as it adds a new spin to everything that you have known about the man, the myth, and the legend. For starters, he is no legendary hero in this story, and what we get is a broken old man who lives with his scarred past that he knows is far from ethical or glorious. What happens when this humanized version of Robin Hood gets one last chance at redemption? There is a lot about this film that I find intriguing, and after watching it, I have a mixed response, which prompted me to create this video for you to share my insights. In this video, I will break down the story and elaborate on the anticlimactic ending, and yes, there will be some major spoilers along the way. When I first heard about this film, the thing that excited me the most was the director-actor combination. The Death of Robin Hood is directed by Michael Sarnowski, and this promising young director has already made a name for himself with films like Pig and A Quiet Place Day One. I am a fan ever since I watched Pig starring Nicolas Cage, and I was keen to find out what his twist to the Robin Hood lore might be like. He had a great start by casting Hugh Jackman as Robin Hood, and the other prominent members of the cast include talented actors like Bill Skarsgård and Jodie Comer. You cannot tell me this is not a combination to be extremely hopeful about. So let's find out how it all works out. 5 minutes into watching the movie, I realized that Sarnowski is very clear about humanizing Robin Hood as someone flawed and broken. This is supposed to be a brutally cynical version of the character from the 13th century, and his best days are far behind. I love how the film opens in the dark, and the first thought that I had after watching the harsh countryside conditions is that this is no country for old men. The weather is terribly cold, and we see a young drifter girl traveling through this terrain all by herself. She has dressed up as a boy, understandably so in order to avoid drawing risks and attention. She is cold and hungry, and she walks up to Robin Hood asking for some food. The first look of Robin Hood is enough to understand that this is only a shadow of the man that we know. He is aged and grisly, and he has a majestic gray beard, but his overall appearance tells me that he doesn't live a life of comfort and peace. The girl is quick to gush about the legacy of Robin Hood, but he corrects her almost immediately. In fact, this is a very important scene because Robin Hood himself shatters the notion of his benevolence for all of us as he talks about how the tales of his greatness are all fabricated. He was simply a violent man who robbed for himself and killed without any conscience, and it doesn't take long before we find out for real. What follows is a poor judgment from the girl who probably thinks that she can pull off a heist herself. She returns at night to try to kill and rob Robin Hood while he is asleep, but this is a veteran of many battles, and a young girl cannot just take him by surprise. He stabs her in the neck, and it is a ferocious finishing blow as he kills her within seconds as the haunting opening sequence ends. Clearly, this version of Robin Hood is not a man of mercy. I mean, you could argue that he was simply attacking her in self-defense, but I am sure he could have also disarmed her and cast her aside without actually killing her. But if the movie is basically his redemption saga, this is only the starting chapter, and there is a long way to go. In comes Little John, played by Bill Skarsgård, and I have to admit, I almost did not recognize him here. Little John has worked with Robin Hood earlier, but now he needs some help to take back his family and farm from a group of villagers who have wronged him. He has been living secretly as Edward with a wife named Margaret and their daughter, Little Margaret, but his story is not so simple. He killed a farmer and stole his identity, and Margaret was actually the farmer's wife. He took the farm for himself, but the farmer's family has reclaimed the land and murdered his stolen wife. Now, this is supposed to be a revenge mission that John needs Robin's help for. Robin knows that things are easier said than done, and this is almost a suicide mission, but he doesn't let that stop him. This is when you realize that not only does the man not fear death, he almost craves for it subconsciously because he is tired of his life. All the people that he has killed over the decades have left behind a consequence. There are always those who seek vengeance for the death of their loved ones, and Robin must always be alert for such threats. He becomes a part of Little John's mission, and this could well be his last, but he doesn't really mind. Before they head over for the village massacre, Robin kills a man over bread, and this is yet another example that he is not someone who thinks twice before taking a life. Even a petty reason is a good enough reason for him if there is ample opportunity, and any respect that you still might have for this version of Robin Hood will go right out the window after this. Then comes what is probably one of the most disturbing moments of the entire film. Robin Hood and Little John tear into the nearby village, and what follows a grim and muddy clash that looks absolutely haunting on screen. There is no holding back, honor, or proper choreography to this madness, and this is just men trying to kill each other without getting killed. Also, I think what is really important here is that it furthers the character assassination of Robin Hood, as he kills relentlessly. The mass murder of innocents should tell you how this man is not even remotely honorable, as he kills men, women, and children mercilessly. Nearly everyone in the village is killed, and in a shocking sequence, he even stabs a pregnant woman in the stomach. The violence is so graphic and gory, and the scale of the slaughter is so terrible that you will actually find it satisfying that Robin Hood is also badly wounded after the whole village fight sequence. He is nearly dead, but he is not dead yet. What was supposed to be his last battle has turned out to be an opportunity to introspect on his life, and surely this is not what he had in mind. Nevertheless, Little John takes the wounded Robin to a nearby island, Priaryy, to be nursed back to health, and this is where you encounter the other memorable character, Sister Bridget, played by Jodie Comer. I have loved her work in the film, and she is the prioress in charge of this ragtag facility. She agrees to take in the injured Robin Hood without actually knowing who he really is, and this is the crucial turnaround in his redemption arc. The man might be ready to die, and the movie's title doesn't really leave it to guesses, but Sister Bridget simply refuses to let him find death. Suddenly, the entire tone of the film shifts completely from violence to a complicated character study. Robin begins to heal, and it seems like even his tortured heart is getting some much-needed peace in this place. The local leper, played by Murray Bartlett, also helps in his recovery, and what we see here is a man undergoing a noticeable transformation. For instance, he has now developed a love for children, and he cares for little Margaret, who is now with him after her father was hunted down and killed by the vengeful family. He takes on a paternal role here and teaches her how to string a bow, and he teaches the other children how to trap rabbits for supper. There is something very comforting about seeing violent and rugged men attempting a soft life of compassion and love. And for Robin Hood, this is the first time in his life that he has experienced something like this. There are these subtle acts of kindness that showed a changed man, or at least a changing man. And he even starts appreciating the little things in life, like nature, which is really a twist when you consider what he has done a while ago. However, this peaceful era of Robin Hood's life is rather short-lived, and it is interrupted by the arrival of a battered and bruised young man who claims to be Arthur. Robin Hood immediately recognizes him as one of the survivors from his earlier farm massacre, and his actual name is Godwin, who is out for revenge. He wants to kill little Margaret for her father's crimes, and this is where the real twist in the movie lies for me. I really expected that Robin Hood would crush the life out of Godwin, but instead he just takes him across the river away from the settlement. He explains how the curse of revenge and blood debt is an unending cycle, and he orders Godwin to return to his family and end the cycle right here. I don't know if Godwin is more terrified or understanding, but he complies with the order. The final act is one that will make you emotional even if you are a hardened fellow. The leper, who had formed quite a bond with Robin Hood, is on his deathbed, and something crucial is revealed. It turns out that he is a man who was mutilated by Robin many years ago, but he has chosen to forgive Robin, and he wants him to remain here as the protector of the Priaryy. He also warns him against revealing his identity to Sister Bridget, but I guess it has come to the point where Robin is done with hiding and running. He disobeys the leper's dying wish and confesses about his true self to Bridget. He tells her about the incident where he had burned her husband and children alive a few years ago, and no matter how good and forgiving Bridget might be, you can imagine the impact of this information on her. I loved the adorable bond that they had developed, but now it is gone in an instant, as the stage is set for a tragic and intimate climax. I find it rather anticlimactic, as Robin undergoes bloodletting again, but this time Bridget does not close the wound. He slowly bleeds to death, and as he dies, he tells little Margaret a version of his story, where he and her father stole from the bad people to give to the poor. Well, at least the man dies after giving her a story that will make her feel good and help her move ahead. But you might wonder if he deserved to die so peacefully and almost painlessly, given how many cruel and agonizing deaths he has delivered. Nevertheless, it is over for Robin Hood, as the title promises, but not before he he gets a good chance to embrace love and humanity. It almost reminds me of the biblical lesson where heaven celebrates every time a person turns away from a sinful life and repents. And at least Robin Hood goes out with his moral head high. Is the movie a bit too slow for comfort? Well, I really cannot deny this because at times I just felt like they needed to get this over with. There is only so much emotional drama and character development that a man can endure without any usual entertainment on offer. Don't get me wrong, the scenes do hit the right spots, and you go from hating Robin Hood to feeling sorry for him, but the slow pacing doesn't help the narrative. On the bright side, the visuals are amazing, and I loved the old world feeling, complete with costumes and set pieces. One of the things that really hindered my experience was the lack of subtitles. Yes, the movie is in English, but honestly, I couldn't always get the old English accent right, and I missed some key moments in the dialogues, especially because of the windy background in the scenes. This really is a tiny problem that could have been fixed with subtitles, because I have heard many other critics point this out as well. So overall, is this a movie worth watching? I would say yes, simply because of some very impressive acting performances and some very artistic visuals. It is probably not a story that you will remember for decades, and neither is this a film that will go down in history. As I have said before, there are some major flaws that cannot really be overlooked, and the movie might not be the entertainer that you would expect. Nevertheless, it is still an experience worth considering, because I don't agree with the reviews that are trashing the movie completely. In short, it is not all bad, and I think people should give this offbeat Robin Hood narrative a chance before forming their opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the movie, and if you have watched it already, share your thoughts on what could have made it a better film. Also, if you appreciate the efforts to bring you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.